Your Google Ads agency says the campaigns are working and wants you to double the budget. Your sales team says they haven't had a single sale from the ads. Who do you believe? I saw this exact situation on Reddit recently. A business owner had been running Google Ads for about 5 weeks, and his agency told him that things were going well. And as evidence for this they pointed out to the CTR was looking good, and the time on page was improving. The agency wanted to spend double up the budget so that they could gather more data. The problem was he hadn't seen any sales. So in desperation, he went to Reddit to ask if his agency actually knew what they're doing. And Reddit being Reddit, about half the comments he got were people saying, yes, double the budget, you can't do anything with that little amount of money you got. And the other half of the comments were people saying that his agency was a cretin and that they should hire them instead. Neither answer is particularly useful. But I don't think we actually have enough information to tell whether his agency was right or wrong. 3 paragraphs on Reddit isn't going to tell you much, but it does reveal an interesting question. The agency and the business were looking at completely different evidence. The agency could see what happened before the lead arrived, the impressions and clicks and conversions and so on. The business could see what happened afterwards, what happened with the lead. Were they able to contact them? Did they turn into a qualified lead? Did they book an appointment or go and do a quote, or did it turn into a sale? Both sides could see their half of the lead's journey, and they were trying to individually use what they could see to answer the same question: should we spend more? This is quite important. The Google Ads data can help you answer the question: can we spend more? Is there more search demand available? Where would we put that extra budget? What's likely to happen to the cost per lead if we double up how much we're spending? Are we losing impressions because of budget? And those are the questions that the agency should be able to answer. But there's a completely different side to that question, which is, should we send more? And you can't, should we spend more? Not should we send more? And you can't answer that question from the data that's inside the Google Ads account. You need to be able to actually know what's happened to the leads you've already paid for. Were they genuine inquiries? Were they the kind of customers you actually want? Did your sales team speak to them? Did they progress? Did they buy? What were the sales worth? That's business data. So the question about doubling your Google Ads spend isn't actually a Google Ads question. And in fact, it's not a business question either. It's the kind of decision that needs evidence from both sides to be able to answer properly. So imagine the business owner on Reddit got a different kind of message from the agency. They said something along the lines of, Google has generated 15 leads so far. 11 of those 15 met the definition we agreed to for a qualified lead. You've quoted 4 of them, and the rest are still progressing through your sales process. You've told us it normally takes about 3 months from sending a quote to signing a customer. So after 5 weeks, it's probably too early to judge the campaign on sales. We're currently paying about $150 per qualified lead. We think there's enough additional search volume available to roughly double the number of qualified leads if we double the budget. And you've told us that your sales team has the capacity to handle them. That's a completely different conversation from double the budget because the time on site looks good. Now the business owner has some useful evidence to make the decision with. I don't think he's going to be turning to strangers on Reddit to find out what he should do. So if you're spending money on Google Ads and you're not having conversations like this with the person who's managing your ads for you, here's where I'd start. Step 1 is to find your last 20 Google Ads leads, not the number of conversions that show up in the ad account, the actual people. Who were the last 20 people who contacted your business because of Google Ads? Can you name them? If you can't, you've already discovered something important. You're spending money to generate leads, but nobody can connect that money to the actual leads that are produced. If you can identify those 20 people, put them under a microscope. What happened to them? Were they genuine inquiries? Were they qualified? Did somebody speak to them? Did they get a quote? Are they still being followed up on? Did they actually buy? And then connect that information back to the advertising that caused those leads in the first place. Which campaign produced the leads? Which produced leads that weren't qualified? What did you actually pay to generate those leads? Now, you don't need to build some enormous attribution system to do this, even though I kind of like the idea. For now, you're trying to answer one question. And it's a pretty simple question, is what did our existing Google ad spend actually produce for the business? Once you can answer that question, the next step is to come to an agreement with the freelancer or the agency who's managing your account on what the ads are working actually means. So what would both you and the agency have to agree on in order to define the ads as successful? So in our Reddit example, the business owner was saying no sales, so the ads aren't working. The agency was saying CTR and time on site are improving, so the ads are working. These aren't disagreements about the facts. They're really disagreements about what's being used to define success. Now, obviously, ultimately, sales are the goal. That's why you advertise in the first place. But there's a practical problem, especially for an industry like this, where sales take a long time. So it takes about 3 months between quote and sale. That's too long to give you useful feedback for managing your Google ads. So you need to find an earlier point in your sales process that gives you evidence that Google is actually bringing the right people. Maybe it's something like a qualified lead or booked appointment or preparing a quote for somebody. For example, you might agree on something like, we agree that Google Ads is working if it generates qualified leads for less than $180 each. That doesn't mean you've now decided that sales don't matter. Obviously they do. They'll ultimately tell you whether you're making money or wasting money. It's just that you've now got a proxy to help make that decision earlier while you're waiting for the sales data to flow in. So once we've done that, it's now time to bring both of those halves of the system together. We can go back to the original question, which was, should you double the budget? The agency or freelancer managing the account brings their half of the evidence. Is there enough additional demand? Where are we going to spend that money? What's likely to happen to the cost per lead and so on? And the business brings their half of the information. Are the leads any good? Are they progressing? Can the sales team handle more of them? And are they likely to be worth what we're paying to generate those leads? And if you're generating qualified leads at an acceptable cost and they're progressing through your sales process, your sales team has the capacity and there's more demand available on Google Ads, then yes, doubling the budget might be the right thing to do. But if you don't know if the leads are any good, if you don't know what happened to them afterwards, and if nobody can connect the money that you're spending on Google to the actual business outcomes, to the leads that you're getting, then you shouldn't be asking if you should double that budget yet. The more important question is, how can we figure out what that answer is? If you like my thinking on this, I've written a book called Profitable Google Ads, which goes into these sorts of things. I would love to give you a copy. You can download one on my website, and the link is in the video description.